Most people try to build wealth loudly. They announce their goals. They advertise their ambition. They speak as if volume creates value. But loud ambition does not attract opportunity. It attracts opposition. It attracts envy. It attracts people who want to drain what you are trying to build. The wealthy know this. They have always known it. They move quietly because silence protects the structure they are creating. Silence gives them something louder than confidence. It gives them immunity. The world rewards those who reveal nothing. Because when your intentions are invisible, no one can interfere. When your progress is hidden, no one can slow it. When your strategy is silent, no one can prepare for your arrival. Machiavelli warned rulers never to expose their plans to the public. Not because secrecy is romantic, but because visibility invites sabotage. Power grows fastest when no one notices. The direction it is expanding. Quiet wealth is not a personality trait. It is a survival tactic. Noise creates targets. Silence creates openings. Noise attracts competition. Silence attracts inevitability. Watch how the masses chase validation. They want to be seen building wealth. But the elite want to build wealth without being seen. They understand something deeper, something the world never teaches. Something almost forbidden. What is visible can be stopped. What is silent cannot be predicted. And what cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. And in that silence, the truth whispers. The fastest way to build wealth is to disappear while you build it. Noise has become the modern currency of ambition. People broadcast their dreams before they take a single step toward them. They announce their goals in crowded rooms. They share their plans with people who barely listen. They reveal their insecurities to audiences that will one day weaponize them. Most of the world does not seek wealth. They seek validation for wanting it. This is the first trap. The trap of noise. Noise exposes you. Noise turns your intentions into targets. Noise invites the wrong people to study your weaknesses. When you speak your goals, you think you are manifesting confidence. But you are revealing the exact points where you are easiest to stop. Machiavelli understood this centuries before anyone coined the phrase financial independence. He warned rulers never to reveal the path they were choosing, only the results after they arrived. Because the moment the crowd understands your aim, they instinctively look for ways to slow you. Not out of malice, but out of fear that your rise might expose their stagnation. Your loudness becomes a threat to their comfort. And in that silence, the truth whispers. The more you talk, the more you lose control over your direction. You become predictable. Predictability is vulnerability. Vulnerability invites manipulation. People begin to shape your path through subtle pressure, criticism, distraction, or emotional anchoring. You surrender the most important element of strategy: unreadability. The wealthy avoid this mistake instinctively. They do not announce new ambitions. They do not explain their strategy. They do not share their next move with people who cannot influence it. Their silence is not shyness. It is power preservation. If the masses understood how dangerous noise is, they would stop performing ambition. They would stop telling their friends about investments they barely understand. They would stop broadcasting their plans on platforms where people hope silently that they fail. Because noise does not inspire trust, it inspires monitoring. People watch. People judge. People wait for you to slip so they can feel safe in their own lack of progress. Noise gives them the ammunition. Watch someone loudly declare they will build a business. Suddenly everyone around them becomes a critic, an advisor, a skeptic. They insert doubt. They exert influence. They nudge the goal off its path until the person abandons it entirely. Noise weakens even the strongest intentions. But the wealthy learned a different lesson. When you build quietly, the world is too distracted to interfere. Silent progress grows beneath notice. Silent growth does not trigger jealousy. Silent expansion does not invite sabotage. There's a reason powerful figures make moves behind closed doors. There's a reason negotiations happen in private chambers, not public arenas. There's a reason every major shift in history began in silence, because noise is a signal. Silence is a shield. And in that silence, the truth whispers again. Your desire to be seen building wealth comes from insecurity, not strategy. You want confirmation that you are on the right path. You want praise before the result. You want permission to continue, but permission is the opposite of power. Quiet wealth building removes permission from the equation entirely. It forces you to depend on yourself instead of emotional reactions from others. It creates a psychological vacuum where your identity is shaped internally, not externally. It lets your ambition grow without friction. Noise interrupts momentum. Silence compounds it. Think of every goal you abandoned. Most were not destroyed by the challenge. They were destroyed by the people you told. A casual comment, a subtle doubt, a raised eyebrow, a passive dismissal. Small disruptions, repeated enough times, dissolve confidence. The wealthy do not experience this because they do not give anyone the opportunity. They build quietly until their results speak louder than their explanations ever could. They choose silence first. Visibility last. The modern world worships exposure. People believe being seen is the same as being successful. But visibility is the most fragile position you can occupy. A single mistake is magnified. A single misstep becomes a spectacle. A single unfinished plan becomes a public embarrassment. Quiet progress eliminates all of that. You move without resistance. You adapt without scrutiny. You pivot without questions. You grow in ways others cannot anticipate. Silent wealth building is not about hiding. It is about removing unnecessary friction. It is about eliminating environmental noise. It is about refusing to let unqualified voices shape your trajectory. The first Machiavellian law of quiet wealth is simple. What is seen can be stopped. What is silent continues to grow. And in that silence, the truth whispers one more time. If you want wealth to rise without interruption, stop announcing your steps. Disappear into your work. Reappear with results. Power is never built in the moment it becomes visible. By the time the world sees the outcome, the advantage was already secured long before, shaped quietly in conditions no one noticed. This is the secret most people never understand about wealth. They think success begins when the world pays attention. But success begins when no one is looking. Invisible moves are not small. They are simply unnoticed. They happen in private study, quiet observation, subtle positioning, and hidden preparation. They take place long before any result appears, long before anyone believes you are capable, long before the world connects the dots. The masses look for evidence before acting. The wealthy act before evidence exists. That is why the masses move. Loudly, they want reassurance. The wealthy move silently. They trust their architecture. And in that silence, the truth whispers. The difference between noise and power is timing. Loud people react to circumstances. Quiet people create conditions. Loud people wait for permission. Quiet people accumulate leverage. Loud people need witnesses. Quiet people need alignment. Invisible moves work because they face no resistance. There are no critics to challenge them, no doubters to slow them, no distractions to weaken them, no competitors to anticipate them. You cannot sabotage what you cannot see. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote that rulers must never reveal the full extent of their intentions, not even to allies, because visibility gives others the chance to prepare their counterstrike. If people know what you are building, they imagine ways to stop it. But if your path is unseen, the world has nothing to defend against. Invisible moves redefine how wealth forms. You start seeing opportunities not as events, but as structures. You begin making choices that look insignificant, but carry enormous potential. You stop taking reactive steps and start placing strategic anchors. A single quiet decision, learning a new skill, entering a new environment, aligning with a powerful person, repositioning your reputation can alter the trajectory of your life. Without anyone realizing it, when nothing you do is visible, everything you do becomes easier. Consider how the wealthy position themselves in markets, industries, relationships, and information networks. They move before the masses wake up. They build foundations while everyone is distracted. They enter emerging spaces before the public notices. By the time others arrive, the game has already been shaped. Wealth rewards the invisible architect, not the visible participant. Invisible moves are what allow the rich to appear lucky. People see only the final result and assume fortune blessed them. They never see the hundreds of invisible adjustments, the thousands of quiet observations, the endless hours of private analysis that shape the conditions for the outcome. Luck is what loud people call the results of silent preparation. And in that silence, the truth whispers again. Invisible moves also protect your identity. When no one sees your progress, you are free to evolve without external expectations. You are not judged when you experiment. You are not ridiculed when you pivot. You are not pressured when you pause. Your internal growth becomes safe from external noise. This psychological freedom is priceless. It creates an environment where high-level thinking becomes possible. You shift from survival mode to architect mode, from reaction to design, from panic to structure. Invisible moves also create asymmetry. People underestimate you. They do not prepare for your rise. They do not expect your competence. They do not guard the opportunities you approach. Their miscalculation becomes your advantage. When you move silently, the world does not realize how close you are to overtaking it. Invisible moves compound. The small skill you build in silence becomes the advantage that multiplies later. The relationship you nurture quietly becomes the gatekeeper to elite circles. The habit you form privately becomes the discipline that outlasts your competitors. Quiet choices become loud outcomes. This is why the wealthy focus less on dramatic actions and more on invisible positioning. They do not need applause for their steps. They need alignment for their strategy. Their ambition is not a performance. It is a blueprint. The second Machiavellian law of quiet wealth is this: invisible moves create visible power. So stop trying to impress people with your progress. Stop sharing your plans with those who cannot help you. Stop revealing your strategy to an audience that does not matter. Power comes from what you build when no one is watching. And wealth flows toward those who do not announce their climb. Invisible moves turn effort into leverage. Leverage turns silence into inevitability. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of access. And in a world where everyone wants to read you, predict you, influence you, or judge you, the absence of access becomes power. Silence confuses people. It denies them the information they need to categorize you. It makes them uncertain about your motives, your intentions, your confidence, your direction. And uncertainty is a weapon far sharper than confrontation. People are not afraid of what they understand. They are afraid of what they cannot read. This is why silence elevates you. It turns you into a psychological mirror. People project their fears onto what you refuse to explain. They imagine your intentions. They fill the gaps with their own insecurities. They amplify your presence because your silence forces them to do the thinking, and in that silence, the truth whispers. The moment you become unreadable, you become uncontrollable. People cannot manipulate what they cannot measure. They cannot attack what they cannot identify. They cannot sabotage what they cannot predict. This is why the wealthy avoid emotional noise. They speak less than they know. They reveal less than they feel. They act without broadcasting their calculations. Their silence is not passive. It is strategic ambiguity. Strategic ambiguity is the shield that protects power. It makes everything you do appear intentional, even when it isn't. It makes others hesitate before approaching you. It creates a perimeter around your identity that only you can enter. People want access to your mind because access gives them leverage. Silence denies them that leverage. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote that a ruler should never allow the public to understand the full nature of his character. Not because deception is noble, but because transparency invites exploitation. Silence protects your vulnerabilities. Silence protects your uncertainties. Silence protects the parts of you that are still under construction. Imagine two individuals in a room. One is loud, expressive, constantly explaining himself. He exposes his fears, his hopes, his doubts. He gives the world everything it needs. To influence him, the other remains quiet, composed, observing. He gives nothing away. He asks more than he answers. He listens more than he speaks. His silence becomes a psychological fortress. Which one wields power? Which one is perceived as stronger? Which one becomes the center of attention without trying? It is always the silent one. Silence amplifies presence. Noise diminishes it. When people do not hear you often, they listen carefully when you speak. When people never know what you are doing, they assume you are doing more than you are. When people cannot predict your next move, they prepare for every possibility. This forces them to overextend while you remain still. Power expands naturally in the space that silence creates, and in that silence, the truth whispers again. Silence also alters the social hierarchy around you. People who cannot read you become cautious. People who cannot predict you become respectful. People who cannot influence you become curious. People who cannot unsettle you begin to view you as someone above their emotional level. This is how the wealthy cultivate mystique. Mystique is not magic, it is control of information. It is the deliberate removal of signals that others could interpret and use against you. Mystique protects your value by making it undefined. Undefined power is the most intimidating kind. In your personal life, silence forces people to reveal themselves. When you speak less, they speak more. When you show less, they expose their motives. When you withhold your emotional reactions, they reveal their intentions. Silence turns you into a psychological mirror. People show you who they are when they no longer know who you are. This is how the elite navigate relationships, negotiations, alliances, and opportunities. They do not rush to fill the silence. They let others unravel inside it. Because silence creates pressure for those who depend on noise. And pressure reveals truth. The third Machiavellian law of quiet wealth is simple. Silence forces the world to reveal itself. Quiet people are not weak. Quiet people are not shy. Quiet people are not passive. Quiet people hold the upper hand because they move second, observe first, and decide last. They understand that the more someone talks, the more they expose. The more someone explains, the more they surrender. The more someone reveals, the more they can be controlled. Silence is self-protection. Silence is psychological leverage. Silence is the boundary between your power and the world's influence. Those who hold their tongue shape their future. Those who cannot stay silent surrender it. Wealth does not grow through force, it grows through time. But time only rewards those who know how to use it. The masses try to build wealth loudly, rush in from opportunity to opportunity, exposing every step, broadcasting every move. They treat wealth like a performance and effort like a badge. But the wealthy understand something deeper. Something nearly invisible. Quiet wealth compounds because silence removes friction. Every loud decision is slowed by opinions, judgment, interference, and emotional resistance. But silent decisions move freely. They slip through unnoticed. They evolve without disturbance. They compound without noise. Compounding is not only financial, It is structural. It is psychological. It is social. It is reputational. Everything compounds when the world cannot interfere. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Quiet compounding begins with private learning. When your development is invisible, no one pressures you to change too quickly. No one mocks your early failures. No one interrupts your slow refinement. You grow at the pace that suits your architecture, not the pace that pleases the crowd. Skills sharpen. Discipline strengthens. Perspective widens. All beneath the surface. Then comes private skill building. The wealthy learn quietly while the rest debate loudly. They engage deeply while others argue superficially. Quiet builders become dangerous because their capabilities mature. Long before anyone suspects they exist, private relationships compound. Next, the elite form alliances in silence. They build trust behind closed doors. They create access to information, opportunity, and leverage without announcing who they know or where their connections lead. Quiet relationships protect them from jealousy, sabotage, and political games. Quiet decisions create leverage. When no one sees your move, no one prepares their defense. You can shift direction, pivot strategy, or reposition your identity without any external resistance. You can evolve faster than others can react. This is why the wealthy seem to make sudden leaps. Their quiet compounding gives the illusion of overnight success. The world only notices the final stage, the visible outcome, the public reveal. By then, the work is already complete. The foundation is already buried beneath months or years of silent construction. And the result looks effortless because the effort was never broadcast. Consider how a seed grows. Its most critical stages happen underground, in total silence, protected from attention. If you pulled it into the light too early, you would kill it. The same is true for your goals. Visibility too early destroys growth. And in that silence, the truth whispers again. Quiet compounding also protects your future self. When your progress is private, you avoid committing to identities that limit you. You can change direction without disappointing anyone. You can drop strategies that no longer serve you. You can reinvent yourself without apologizing. Public goals trap people in outdated versions of themselves. Private goals let you evolve freely. Quiet wealth building is also resistant to emotional sabotage. You are not influenced by envy, praise, criticism, or competition. You are not swayed by trends. You are not pressured to prove anything. The quiet builder stays aligned with long-term positioning rather than short-term validation. This alignment is what accelerates compounding. Every quiet day of work becomes a layer. Every private choice becomes a brick. Every silent improvement becomes a pillar. Over months, the structure rises. Over years, it becomes unshakable. Wealth is not the reward of public effort, but the result of private compounding. The moment you stop seeking attention is the moment your progress becomes exponential. Attention slows you. Silence multiplies you. This is why the wealthy appear calm. They know their compounding is inevitable. They know their moves are protected. They know no one can slow what no one can see. The fourth Machiavellian law of quiet. Wealth is this. Quiet compounding outgrows loud effort. Loud people seek recognition. Quiet people seek results. Loud people want credit. Quiet people want leverage. Loud people start strong and fade. Quiet people start invisible and rise without resistance. You do not need more noise. You need more layers. You need more depth. You need more silent construction. What you build quietly will eventually speak loudly for you. By the time the world notices, the compounding is already unstoppable. To build wealth quietly, you must first become the kind of person who no longer needs noise. Noise exists to fill insecurity. Silence exists to reveal strength. People chase attention because they fear being overlooked. People chase validation because they fear being insignificant. People chase recognition because they fear their work is not enough. But when you move into silence, these fears begin to dissolve. Your transformation does not begin with new habits. It begins with a new identity. You must stop seeing yourself as someone who must prove anything. You must stop believing that others have to witness your progress for it to matter. You must stop letting external reactions define your direction. This is the psychological shift that the wealthy make long before they acquire wealth. They remove the world from their inner world. Machiavelli wrote that the most powerful individual is one who cannot be influenced by the crowd. Not because the crowd is insignificant, but because its noise interrupts clarity. To become dangerous, you must protect the clarity of your mind. The silent identity is not passive, it is sovereign. It does not seek permission. It does not seek applause. It does not seek to be understood, and in that silence, the truth whispers. When you stop explaining yourself, you become unreadable. When you stop revealing your plans, you become unpredictable. When you stop sharing every detail of your life, you become unmanipulable. This is the identity the wealthy construct, not as a performance, but as an internal architecture. Your silence becomes a filter. People who depended on your openness will fall away. People who needed to read you will become uncomfortable. People who relied on your predictability will lose their influence. Those who remain in your life will be those who respect your boundaries. Quiet identity is the foundation of long-term power. When you no longer need noise, you naturally gravitate toward environments that reward depth, not attention. You begin to value privacy. You begin to prefer meaningful alliances over public approval. Your goals become sharper because you are no longer performing them for an audience. Your actions become cleaner because they are no longer diluted by distraction. You begin to build from the inside out. This is where you shift from seeker to sovereign, from follower to strategist, from performer to architect. The architecture of the silent identity has 4 pillars. 1. Emotional neutrality. You do not react to the noise of others. You observe without absorbing. 2. Intentional privacy. Your goals, plans, and fears belong entirely to you. They are not public property. 3. Controlled expression. You speak only when it benefits your direction, not your ego. 4. Internal authorship. Your identity is shaped deliberately, not inherited passively. Once these pillars strengthen, you stop being influenced by the world and start influencing it. People begin to treat you differently. They sense the shift. They feel the presence of someone who is not seeking approval. Your silence becomes intimidating. Your focus becomes magnetic. Your stillness becomes commanding. And in that silence, the truth whispers again. When you no longer depend on the world becomes predictable. Its patterns become clearer. Its noise becomes irrelevant. Its opinions lose weight. What once overwhelmed you becomes background texture. What once controlled you becomes harmless. This is the psychological freedom from which quiet wealth grows. The final stage is becoming someone money is drawn to. Not because you chase it, not because you perform for it, but because your identity is stable, strategic, and unshakable. Money moves toward clarity. Money gravitates toward stability. Money flows toward individuals who do not need it to define themselves. The wealthy do not chase abundance, they attract it through internal alignment and external positioning. The 5th Machiavellian law of quiet wealth is this. When no one knows your next move, every option becomes available. Visibility limits possibility. Silence expands it. You do not need to announce the life you are building. You do not need to justify your ambitions. You do not need to prove your worth through noise. Your power grows in silence. Your wealth compounds in silence. Your identity strengthens in silence. You become someone who is no longer swayed by the world. You become someone who shapes it. That is what it means to be silent, dangerous, and unstoppable. you have walked through a truth most people never approach. Not because they cannot understand it, but because they are too addicted to the noise. That keeps them powerless. Noise feels safe. Noise feels social. Noise feels alive. But noise is the very thing that keeps people from ever touching real wealth. You have seen now how the wealthy build quietly. Not out of fear, but out of precision. Not out of shyness, but out of strategy. Not out of secrecy, but out of sovereignty. You have seen how invisible moves shape visible power. How silence protects your identity. How quiet compounding outgrows loud effort. How unreadability prevents manipulation. And how the architecture of your inner world determines the trajectory of your outer one. The world wants you loud. It wants you distracted. It wants you performative and predictable. People who chase attention are easy to guide. People who chase validation are easy to drain. People who expose their intentions are easy to stop. But you are beginning to see through that. You are learning how power actually behaves. Quietly, deliberately, anonymously. The moment you step out of the noise, you become dangerous. You stop responding to the world and begin shaping it. You stop seeking permission and begin creating leverage. You stop showing your plans and begin building them. This path is not loud. It is not glamorous. It is not something you broadcast. It is something you live, something you construct, something you protect. If this message resonates, it means you are already moving differently from the crowd. You are already stepping out of the public arena and into the private chamber where real change begins. Most people fear the silence. But silence is where clarity forms. Silence is where strategy sharpens. Silence is where power grows. If you are ready to keep going deeper, stay close. Not for entertainment, not for distraction, but for consciousness. For the quiet ideas that reshape the way you see wealth, power, and yourself. The next layer begins when you are ready to hear what the world refuses to say out loud. And in that silence, the truth waits.